episode 97 of the Grouch and the Brainstorm, and I'm Mike, and today here in the studio we have just me. Actually, that's a joke. Jill, Matt, and Bobby sit down in the studio today that I am not at and recorded an episode on minding your own business. And I'm going to let them take it away in just a second, but before they do, I do have a couple of announcements. Come on. And that is my announcement music. So, we have recently had a couple of birthdays that I had not mentioned on the show. One, Amy C. down in Mandeville, Louisiana. Actually, she lives just outside of Mandeville, but she goes to the Mandeville group. Celebrated 7 years back on January the 6th. And on the same day, J.S. celebrated 36 years on that same day, January the 6th. So congratulations to both of them. I'm very glad to have both of them in my recovery family and in my life. They've both played a critical role in my recovery, and I appreciate both of them. And I hope to see them get many, many more birthdays. With that being said, I think it's time for Matt, Jill, and Bobby to take it away. So, Matt, why don't you go ahead and run this thing today?
All right, we're here today, this morning, with Jill and Bobby, and Mike is not with us this morning. We got together and go have a little discussion about today is going to be minding our own business in recovery. I've got Bobby with me. Full disclosure, he is my sponsor, but I'm a better fisherman than he is, so it's kind of a yin-yang, a give and take there. He helps me with sobriety. I help him with fishing. It's been like 90 episodes, 85 episodes since Bobby was on. I think he was on episode 11.
Okay.
So I was looking last night.
Welcome back.
So yeah.
Good to be here.
Yeah. And so when Mike told me the topic that he wanted to do, I thought of Bobby because this is kind of one of his sticklers, I guess you could say, or one of his things that we've concentrated on and wanted to have him. So whatever you guys feel, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, like, to preface this topic, I think that a lot of us in our addiction were used to chaos, used to drama, used to bullshit. We were all up in other people's business. Mm-hmm. We weren't necessarily minding our own. There's a lot of different unhealthy, coping skills that we collect along the way, codependency and other things like that, to where we seek some kind of validation and pleasure out of being in other people's business. And as far as like recovery goes, if we're going to learn how to live our life differently, we've got to make some changes. First of all, most of all with ourselves. I think that's, incredibly important. I've always been a drama dodger because I don't like it. I never have. It's important for our growth. It's important for our emotional state, spiritual state, and many other things. Because what goes on outside of my hula hoop is none of my business. And I feel as if a lot of us dealt with control issues. A lot of us have dealt with that. And so if we can manipulate, or if we can feel like we're controlling not only people, but situations and outcomes and things like that, that we have some power over something. And it gives us a sense of false pride. And it's complete bullshit is what it is. Mm-hmm. And so, again, if we have that pride, it's feeding our ego. It's making us feel better about, something that really isn't so. I remember in early recovery, my sponsor getting your hula hoop, because there were like certain things that people would do that would irritate me, and I think what she was trying to make me realize is I cannot control other people, but what I can do is control the way I react to them, and I don't have to. That's a party I don't want to go to. Life is a lot simpler that way when you let go of all of those things, and how you feel things should happen, or how you feel people should do or act or whatever. And that's basically, to me, it's a serenity prayer to grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. There's a lot of power in that prayer because I'm not God.
Yeah.
Is basically it.
Doesn't the serenity prayer just pretty much cover every single thing in life?
It really does. It really does. And, I say it every day of my life.
Yeah.
Every day, that is my first prayer that I say in the morning. And then it's the third step prayer, but and sometimes the 7-step prayer. But anyway, we're going to talk about this today. And I think a lot of people don't realize that what is and what isn't their business, because we want to think this stuff is.
And it's almost like, I think some of it's like, it makes you important because you're involved in someone's bullcrap.
Well, yeah.
Like you're the expert on everybody's bullcrap.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And what I had to learn is that there's even things within my own life that is about me.
Yeah.
That's none of my business.
Yeah.
And so I think there's so many layers to what this could actually mean. Bobby, tell us what you think about it.
He's nodding his head up and down.
You're like, yep.
Well, first off, it seems like a very simple topic, mind my own business. We in Alcoholics Anonymous call it other things, stay in my lane, stay inside my hula hoop, clean my side of the street.
Yep.
Don't worry about the other person's side of the street. And of course, the one that Matt alluded to that I say often is not my circus, not my monkeys. Mm-hmm. And I think the first thing to realize in minding my own business and me as an alcoholic needing to do that is this is not just a problem of alcoholism or for alcoholics or addicts. It's in the world we live in today, everybody wants to get in other people's business. The difference is me getting into other people's business, me sticking my nose where it don't belong may lead me to a drink when the results don't come my way or it doesn't turn out like I think. And like I said, it sounds like a very simple topic, but it can get very complicated. The further away past that line of that hula hoop that something is happening, it's easy to say, well, that's not my business. Mm-hmm. I think the core of it is that not minding our businesses come out of our character defects. It comes out of worry. It comes out of fear. Mm-hmm. It may come out of grandiosity. It may come out of controlling. It comes out of those fears where we think if we're not in control or we're not taking care of that business, that something is going to happen to me, that if I don't do that. So, going back to a simple example of minding my business, and I thought of several while I was thinking about this. If I drive up to Walmart parking lot and I park to go in and two people are arguing, 3 or 4 rows over from me in the parking lot, that's none of my business. And it's easy, they're fighting over a parking space. It's easy for us as alcoholics to say, well, sure, that's none of my business. But our character defects of wanting to control and grandiosity and all that is, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to fix that. I'm going to intercede because I am the captain of the universe. I am Mr. Wonderful. I'm the mediator of all times. And when I get done, everybody's going to be happy. Well, it's none of my business. I need to just walk on into Walmart and get my stuff and walk out and leave. And so we see, and I'll be honest with you, when I was, I kept looking, and I don't know if looking is the right term, after I got sober for my root character defect, if you will, that caused me to be an alcoholic. And I was over a year sober when it finally dawned on me it was control. I wanted to control everything. I wanted to control everybody. I wanted to control things that were outside of my scope of control. And once I tried to learn to let go of that control, then life got a lot better. Life got a lot simpler. Now, does it mean I don't still do it? Absolutely not. Because that is our human nature, is to try to do that. I mean, we've heard in meetings as I've sit in them, the problem wasn't me. The problem was everybody else in the world. If everybody else in the world would just act like I want them to act,
be a lot nicer, huh?
Yeah, then I wouldn't have this big problem and all that. So it can be very simple that you do that and you stay in your lane. Can be. A lot of times it can be very complicated.
Yeah.
And so, and what's funny, and I thought of it coming here, even after we're sober, I've been sober almost 8 years. Matt's coming on 7 years. How many years?
Jill's got about 500 years.
Yeah.
I'll have 15 next month.
15 years. And of course, we have people in sobriety that have been sober 30, some even 40 years, even inside the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. We try to control things.
Oh, yeah.
We don't mind our own business. And, so it's probably one of the harder things to try to do. And I'm going to use this example from time to time. Things happen either in a meeting or at a club where a member or a participant has to be disciplined. I've seen it all the way from somebody not acting right in a meeting and the meeting stopped and they take a group conscience of, do we want to ask this person to leave the meeting because they're being disruptive? They're maybe hogging the topic. Maybe they're hyped up and whatever it may be. And you take a vote and 2 people vote that they can stay and 25 vote that they leave. And the 2 people that vote that they stay don't understand why, they want to go and convince everybody why the other 25 were wrong and they were right. And so we do that a lot. We had a situation not too long ago that became in the AA world public. And we had people trying to stick their nose into the business of why this was happening when, just love the person and reach out to them after, outside of the club. It doesn't have to be, but we hide, if you will, our trying to be in other people's businesses using other phrases. Mm-hmm. I care. I care, so that's why I'm in their business. I'm concerned. I'm worried. I'm fearful for them.
And there's a fine line of what that accountability / not my business.
That's right. There is. Maybe sometimes I take it too far. I'll tell you how the Not My Circus, Not My Monkeys got to me. When I went to Palmetto Recovery, addiction recovery in Rayville. And this story may seem like it was my business. Kind of like you said, Jill, sometimes we think it is. We were getting ready for Family Day. And Family Day there is my family comes. It's not everybody else's family. It's just mine.
That's a very wicked weekend, huh?
It's a very tough day.
Yeah.
And in preparation of getting to that day, and it's not, I think it was a day. It may have been 2 days. The family does some writing stuff about the resentments they have against me, and I do some writing about the resentments that I had against certain family members. And one in particular, I'll talk about it, was my mother. My counselor wanted to go through these before the actual sit down and everybody start pointing fingers and yelling at each other and all that. And she said, well, tell me about this resentment against your mother. And I told her, I said, I love my mother. She's a great mother. I'll tell my mother something and ask her not to tell anybody. Don't tell. Mm-hmm. I don't want anybody to know. Let's say I'm having a minor surgical procedure.
Yeah.
Hey, you're my mother. I want you to know, and I'm telling you, but I don't want anybody else to know. Don't tell anybody. And that afternoon, my brother would call me and say, hey, I hear you're having a surgical procedure. Or my sister would call me, and I would get mad over that. And my counselor was like, well, the solution to that is just don't tell your mother. And I was like, no, No, that's not the way I want to handle it. I want her to fix her behavior. I want her to fix. And so in this example, not being my business, once I tell my mother that, it's her business now. It's not my business, And so, I would get frustrated at it. And so you either have to learn, like my counselor said, just don't tell your mother, or you have to accept what the outcome is going to be.
God, yes, acceptance was the answer.
Accept it is the answer, and you may not always like that. We don't always want to accept an unknown result of something we're going to do, but it does. And I actually thought of a hypothetical, but as that sphere of influence, the hula hoop, if you will, gets closer to us, boy, it really gets hard.
It really does.
Now you're dealing with close family members, kids, wife, in-laws. You're dealing with people that are right there. That going back to the two people in the parking lot, I walk into Walmart and walk back out. I'm probably never going to see those two people again. But those people that live in the house with me, or I run with, or I'm seeing at Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthdays and all that, it's much harder. And I thought, just to give an example for the audience of a hypothetical, let's say my daughter is going to buy a house, okay? And I think that what she is going to pay for the house is way too much money, okay? Or she's buying too much house. And interest rates are too high. And I think that she can't handle that payment on that house if she follows through with this. Some people listening may say, well, that's love, that's caring, that's all that. But my daughter's 32 years old, not my circus, not my monkeys. And then somebody may say, well, it is your circus or is your monkey, because if she can't pay and she gets foreclosed on, that's going to mess up her credit. Yeah, but it's not messing up my credit.
Right?
Yeah,
I could imagine how that must feel with children. I just cannot. It would be overwhelming.
So I'm going to give an example of he and I on a situation and how we approached it. I was thinking about this, and it's been a little while back, but when I got out of treatment, was married, had kids, all that stuff. I don't talk about the ex very much, but I'm going to briefly just touch on it just so we have some background. But she had got out of treatment as well about the same time. We're both early in sobriety. She had a different plan of recovery. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Her own ideas about that. And I don't even know if you remember this, but I was frustrated with, she's not going to meetings. She's not doing this. She don't have a sponsor. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, I got it, And he said, you gotta, no matter what, you have to concentrate on what you're doing. And that's hard when it's somebody in your house and you're struggling with paying bills and doing adult things and you feel slighted or irritated with what's going on. That's hard to do. But like you kind of told me, hey, things may not go down the road the way you think they're going to go, and you've got to be on a footing to take the reins if you have to, or whatever the situation might be. But that is tough when and then there's kids involved and her talking to them, me talking to them, and it's different, which all that translated to a divorce. So, but anyway, but that was good. And honestly, I think she's in a better spot, and so am I, and that's great. It's very hard to mind your own business. Something else he did one time, and this was telling one on me, but we had gotten divorced, and she texted me out of the blue wanting to borrow some money for something. And I was like, ooh, I'm gonna burn, as my kids say. This is a good opportunity. So I call him and I said, what should I say? And he goes, are you gonna loan it to her? And I said, no. And he goes, then say no. And I said, no, because blah, 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 blah. And he said,
just no.
No, you just say no. And I was like, well, that ain't no damn fun, but he's right. Why do I need to invite, and what is it? I think the character defect thing of almost that addict thing of action, it's some type of something that your brain, I don't know what it is, just kind of jump into this little deal here, but it is like, it's like whack-a-mole. It's like we ask God to remove those defects of character, but sometimes I don't know if he removes them right off the bat or if ever. I think sometimes it's a thing of we have to work at it, and that's one that just kind of can raise its head sometimes. And that's where you were talking about the Serenity Prayer. I was like, when you can get in your head to think that way, it makes it pretty black and white most of the time. It's just peaceful. Yeah. I don't have people come up to me and go, oh, and I go, oh, I didn't know that. And I just go on. I don't care,
Yeah. Because basically, if you're having those type of thoughts, there's a cognitive distortion that is, wrapped up within it, or, which is a false and irrational belief about something. It'll have words like should, ought, must, always, never, those kind of words that make you believe that's not the way it should be. It seems like a simple task. It really does. You're like, oh, okay, I just won't do that. But for me, it was unbelievably difficult because I didn't know that you could do that. I was never told that I didn't have to control anything. And it wasn't like control, like I tell you what to do. It was a totally different with the way I thought things should have gone in my life. And of course they didn't. But once I started to let that go, and it's that ultimate surrender of, again, the Serenity Prayer and letting go of the need to control. And like I said, it is something that is within me, and I think that will always be within me because it's just a character defect I think every single human has. But if I'm spiritually fit and I'm really working and on like my spiritual maintenance aspect of my recovery, I don't have time for that because of the negative emotions it brings. And a negative emotions to one of us is a trigger. Mm-hmm. Because I don't like being irritable. I don't like being stressed. I don't like being pissed. I don't like none of that. And when I feel those feelings, guess what? I want them to go away pretty quick. But I can't drink and I can't use drugs, so I had to learn how to do that in a healthy way. And so I think for many years, at least 8, I was just this tug of war of what I thought things should be. And it's like the longer I'm sober, the more I'm just like, no thanks. Yeah. That looks like an opportunity for me to control things. Nah.
Yeah.
I just don't want it because it gives me anxiety.
And isn't it funny when you get away from it too, and you spot somebody that's just they're just like the Tasmanian devil, man, and it's like, hey, calm down, it'll be all right.
It's crazy, and going back to the example you used, Matt, with your ex and wanting to borrow money, and instead of just saying no or yes, you wanted to add on other things. Well, in reality, that's getting into their business. No, I'm not going to give you the money because you didn't help me with school supplies, or you turned left at that intersection when I thought you should have turned right, or you didn't dress the kids the way I would have dressed them, and all that. You're getting into their business, and what you're really trying to do is you're really trying to one up them. Or I'm going to take it a step further. You're trying to hurt them.
Yep. Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're trying to inflict pain on them. But, go back to the example of my wife, my daughter buying a house and not being able to pay for it and all that. A normal person carries that further. Well, if their house gets foreclosed on and they don't have a place to live, then they're going to come live with me. They're going, so yeah, it is my business. No, it's not, because you can say no.
Yeah.
You can say now, if I had a child show up, on my doorstep and Dad, me and my wife are getting a divorce and I've got 2 small kids, I'm probably not going to say no.
Right.
But what I'm going to say is, come on in here, let's get settled. And a few days from now, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about a plan that gets you back out of
An
here.
exit strategy.
That's right.
Yep.
We're going to get you. You know, we're gonna move forward because you know it's not my business. And when it comes to my kids, I have three children. The oldest one's 32, the middle one is 26, and the youngest one is 22. They're adults. You know, they have to make their own decisions. And the way I always put this example to mothers and grandmothers and fathers and whoever that are in their kids' business is, you know, because they'll tell you, oh, I have to do that for them. You know, I have to help them. And all. What's going to happen when you're gone?
Yep.
Who's going to pay their house note for them when you're gone? Who's going to give them gas money when you're gone? Those problems that you think you're trying to avoid in their life is still going to happen. You're really
Hurting them more than helping them.
Well, yeah, it's enabling behavior.
what you're really doing is controlling them.
Absolutely.
Because when you're giving them gas money or doing this, you're going to have a ask somewhere down the road. Yeah, I'm going to fill your car up, but sure would be nice if you came to see me more often. What do you think they're hearing? If I don't come see them, they're going to cut off my gas money. You know?
It's horrible.
And so, and what's funny about not my circus, not my monkeys, and the reason I like saying that a lot is because sometimes it is my circus, but it's not my monkey. Or sometimes it is my monkey, but it's not my circus. My daughter buying a house too big and not being able to pay for it, she's my monkey, but the situation is not my circus. You know, I have to realize that I can't just stick my nose in everything. And I was horrible. I was horrible with control. You know, I wish I had a switch that I could just turn off, but I can't. But it goes even deeper. You know, my wife, when she's telling me about things that she ain't liking at work, the Bobby wants to go to her job and straighten them people out. You know,
Yeah.
but it's not my circus.
Yeah.
She's my monkey, but it's not my circus. So
Yeah.
so I have to set those boundaries and know when I'm inside that. You know, but the other side of it is sometimes things are absolutely my business.
Yeah.
And I need to handle those. I will say this: when it is those things, number one, before you get involved in them, have some thoughtful reflection.
Yeah.
You know, pray to determine, is this really my business? And if it is really my business, what's my best way to handle it? You know,
Right.
what
Right.
should I do? Because as in a lot of people, my first thought that pops in my head is probably not the right one.
And real quick, that's what sponsors are for.
That's right. That's right.
Well, you know, and two, so Lacey and I have had this conversation over things, and a situation will come up involving one of the kids or something. She's excited. She's ready to do whatever it is. And she's like, you don't get worked up. And I go, sometimes I'm going to think about it a day or two. And she goes, well, it needs to be dealt with right now. And I'm go, it'll be dealt with and when I get done thinking about it.
Right. You're like, but does it?
And like we talked about, and I think she's kind of seeing it where I'm coming from after a little bit of time, because if it's an ex situation that you're dealing with and you got feelings and things going on, what's the result you're trying to get? That's what we're there to do. It's not, you know, if it's my child needs whatever it might be, I should be focused on how are we, the people involved, getting whatever that result needs to be. Not let's throw rocks at each other and battle it out, and then the child doesn't get whatever it is. That's a way of, and I learned that in work too with managing people, is sometimes you do want to go in there and just go, you idiot, you know, and just lay into them. But at the end of the day, what's the result you're going to get out of that? Probably not what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And so the big picture is what it amounts to.
Well, and going back to what you said, Matt, you know, we live in a very instant society, and we think that everything has to be handled instantly. And it most time it does not. We cook our food in the microwave. We have a phone that can alert us any second of the day what's going on. And when I was growing up, You didn't have a telephone. You didn't carry a telephone with you. I left the house in the morning. I came back at dark.
That's right.
And my parents didn't really. They knew I was in the neighborhood, but they didn't know exactly where I was or exactly what I was doing. We see a problem and we think, I have to fix it now, immediately, where most of the time it doesn't have to be fixed immediately. If the kid's got a broken leg, you got to take them to the doctor right now. What we do is we say, okay, the kid's got a broken leg. I got to take him to the doctor. What about school tomorrow? And then what about football season next year? Is he even going to graduate? We morph these things into worries. We make it a way bigger issue than it really has to be, and just staying in our lane or our business. I think it's the hardest thing in AA to do is to stay in our business. We all want to go tell somebody how they could be doing something better, or that's not the right way, or all that. And we all go to the Koala Club. An example would be, there's all kinds of pictures and mosaics and obviously the steps and the traditions and the promises and all that up on the wall. If you took any one of those things down and just put it in a closet, you would have people bouncing off the wall. Where's that picture? Where's that
picture's been there since 82.
Where's that at? Old Jim gave us that in 1922. What are we doing with it? Well, it's a picture of a koala cub falling out of a tree. I don't think we really need that, or a koala bear falling out of a tree. But you change one thing. You change the brand of coffee. You change the chairs. You change the color of the room. You change. Just imagine at Koala Club if we swapped around the front of the room to the other.
That'd be weird.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be weird.
We don't like change.
We don't.
I'd like to do that and just put hidden cameras. Don't tell anybody. Just watch everybody walk in.
Maybe instead of a podcast, y'all could start doing like Koala Club funniest videos,
right? Or like sit in someone's chair.
Yeah,
we all know we have our chair. They're not assigned by any means.
And it's kind of funny. I came in last night and I was running just a minute or two late, and I came in, and a person that's been in, I think he just celebrated 5 years, was sitting where I normally sit. And he started to get up. And I was like, no. Just stay where you're at. There's 25 other chairs I can sit in, and I'll get in the chairs.
So on that topic, then this is what I wanted to hear from y'all, because this is another part of that we haven't got into, but it can be some gray area and some sponsoring people.
Ooh. And I was kind of going to touch on that being a clinician. My job is to help people. The things that I had to learn as a, budding clinician at first was I can give people, and just like a sponsorship, I can give people information. I can give them coping skills. I can give them resources, whatever. But what I can't do is make them accept it or do it. And I found that very frustrating in early recovery when I, started sponsoring. I found it frustrating as a clinician when I would see people relapse, when they wouldn't take their medications or, do the things that I thought would help them. I learned pretty quickly, especially when people relapsed. I was like, oh, why would they do that? Or when people started dying, I was like, oh, what? Why? And again, I have no control over that. And that was also a huge lesson in my recovery. Every day I work with people and I offer suggestions, advice, and give them tools and things, and they don't use it.
Well, and that's a very good point. What the old timers in AA, if I went to one of them and said, hey, my sponsee is not doing the things they do, they would say, are you sober today?
Right.
Right. It's about my sobriety. It's not about theirs, but it is very hard. I, like it, don't like it. Matt will tell you. I'm what I consider a hands-off sponsor. And what I say by that is is I'm not going to call my sponsees every day. It's their job to call me.
Exactly.
You know, I'm not going to call them. If I give them step one work, it's their job to do it in a reasonable time period. I'm not going to pound them. Hey, you ain't got that done yet. You ain't got that done yet. You ain't got that done yet, because I am getting into their business. I am getting in to all that. So being a sponsor or a counselor or whatever it is doesn't give me a free pass to insert myself in their life.
Absolutely.
You know, whether they want to do it, you know, the way I think or not is up to them. And I'll say this: when you're working with sponsees, for me, I don't treat them all the same. They all have different issues. They all have different things. Some were more drugs than alcohol. So, you know, things like that. So the way I approach them is not the same. It's generically the same, but it's not the same in and out. So it does it drive me crazy at times? Yes. You know, Matt was talking. I was talking to a sponsee just a day or two ago, and the only reason I was talking to him was because he came to a meeting. It wasn't that he called me, and I was talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, you know." He was talking, and just kind of in passing, he was like, "Yeah, me and my longtime girlfriend broke up, you know, about a month ago." And I'm like, I'm thinking in my mind, wouldn't that have been a good thing to call and talk to your sponsor about? Not that he may or may not be handling it fine. It's just where it can lead to. You know, an alcoholic's mind is like a junkyard, and you know things can get lost.
Scary junkyard.
Yeah, it is bad. I mean, a lot of stray cats and
Rottweilers,
raccoons, possums, and you don't know what's going on. You know, I actually used this example last night. Do y'all know what the hardest distance shot in golf is?
the short one. If whatever that's called.
Probably 30 yards, 20 yards.
Okay. Both not bad answers, but they would both be wrong. The hardest shot is 8 inch, the distance, the hardest distance, because that's the distance between one ear to the other.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, you get over that putt and your mind starts running, you know, and you pull it or you push it or whatever. Or, you know, same thing in football, gaining a yard, you overthink it, or hitting a baseball, or for Matt's catching a fish, because he never can figure that out. But,
I hold my own, okay?
Yeah. He holds his own while I throw fish back there to him and say you can count these.
I hold the lid on the live well.
That's right. But you know, it's when our mind gets involved that things get more difficult, because we want things instant. We talked about it just a minute ago. We tend to overcomplicate things. We've heard the saying that 90% of the stuff I worry about never happens.
Yep.
And the other 10% doesn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen. If we can shut our minds off, and I think that's where it comes in, not making a decision at the moment if you can, you know, giving your time to think about it and run through the different scenarios, because typically the instant decision is not the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the more I think about this is probably the top conversation I have with my clients right now.
Sure.
It is the number one conversation, because they are somewhere where they're absolutely powerless. They live in a controlled environment where they are told when to eat, when to go to bed, when to do everything. They really struggle with that.
Sure.
And it's every conversation. I look at them and say, what can you do about that? And they look at me and they go, nothing. I said, are you going to be pissed about it? Or are you going to let go of it and have some peace?
Yeah.
It's every day, multiple times a day.
Well, and that reminded me of a couple things when I was in treatment. I was at Palmetto, and I was there for 90 days. You know, Palmetto, and that's been 8 years ago, had these silly rules. Okay, like you couldn't wear a hat indoors.
Don't pet the squirrels.
Don't pet the squirrels. That's right. Don't. You can't wear sunglasses inside. you had to, if you were on the sidewalk, you had to yield to a certain way people were walking and stuff like that. And after I had gotten out, I was talking to one of the counselors about it and was like, what's up with these silly rules? And her answer was very simple. Alcoholics can't follow rules, and they're not used to consequences when they break rules. And so, if at Palmetto you broke a rule, like you walked in with a hat on, you would have to wear the hat around your neck for one day.
Oh, you remember the drinks in the bedroom?
Oh yeah,
Have to stand up and eat.
That's right. And that seems silly. It is, but what I saw a lot was those people that didn't like the rule and didn't like the consequence would become defiant. And so what they do is they'd wear a hat again into the deal. And now it's, well, you got to wear it around your neck 2 days. Mm-hmm. And then if it got far enough where they still wore a hat, now everybody in the cabin had to wear a hat around their neck.
Oh, yeah.
So these things that we have to do in life that seem so difficult are really not that difficult. Follow the damn simple rule.
Yeah, compliance.
Yeah.
We're defiant by nature.
Yeah.
Because we don't like the fact that our society is so controlled. We have laws, we have rules, regulations, and all kinds of things.
Let's not talk about laws after this morning, please. So,
Guys, y'all weren't here, but my sponsor is Jill and I are waiting out by the road for him, and he got a police escort into the podcast this morning. He was hauling butt. We did this early in the morning, and we were going to video him. Jill said, should we video him? And I said, I'm not videoing that. I know better. He don't want any record of it.
Yeah, I was like, send it to him later on.
Yeah,
You're like, no.
Well, and this morning was a good example. A lot of us want to become confrontational and belligerent and things like that. He asked for my driver's license, I gave it to him. He asked for my registration, I gave it to him. He asked for my insurance, I gave it to him. Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you, sir. And he said, hey, I'm just going to give you a verbal warning. I said, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Instead of making an ass out of myself. And I use this, if I'm driving down the road and a police officer stops me, okay, let's say he stopped me because my code is caught in the door.
Right.
And he just wants to tell me, hey, sir, your code is caught in the door. If I act an ass and belligerent, he can find a reason to write me a ticket.
Oh, yeah.
Being kind, being gentle, realizing those things, go from there. But, we need to take that attitude of when we were in a controlled environment in treatment and move it out to our life. That, hey, I'm not captain of the universe. I'm not the guardian of the galaxy. I'm just Bobby. Mm-hmm. And, what happens in Uruguay, is none of my business.
I mean, don't you wish the whole world could follow that rule?
Yeah.
And that's the reason I left some social media.
Yeah.
And maybe it's controlling of me because you guys can't act right.
Right.
But also at the same time, there's
got
too
to
much.
be some peace involved.
Oh,
in
there's
the deal,
so
though.
much
Yeah.
peace because everybody is so concerned about what everybody else is doing, whether it's their everything, and it makes me crazy because what other people do is none of my business. Do what you want to do.
Right.
That has nothing to do with me. And if, God, wouldn't that be cool if everybody could?
I have 2 older kids. They're above the age of 18. They're legal adults in this country. Speaking on the control, and you and I both are with the grandkids now. Lacey and I were talking about this the other night, and she said, you just act totally different with that baby. He can do what, and I said, he ain't my circus, man. I don't have to keep him out of jail. That's not my job. He's got parents. They parent him. They do a pretty good job. I can play with him, hang out, and do whatever he wants to do. And I don't have that responsibility and that press. It's not my thing to do, And Mr. Joe, we were at a meeting one night, and you were talking about how people get upset in meetings. And a lady got upset about something that happened in a meeting. This was a couple of years ago. And I was sitting over there where we sit at. And as soon as the meeting ended, this lady jumps up and she runs right to Mr. Joe. And for y'all not listening, he's been sober for a long, long time. And, one of the old timers in our club, and she goes right up to him, and it wasn't that he didn't do anything. It was just she was upset about something, and she went up to him to and she goes, "Can you believe that?" And he's always real calm, and he just looked at her. I had to be sitting right there, and he goes, "What I find best is when I mind my own damn business." And he just walked off, and I was like, "That's what I'm talking
that's
about."
Joe for you there.
Well, and what's funny is the world pushes us sometimes to mind other people's business. And, my dad passed away about 22 years ago. Mm-hmm. I would run into people and they would say, "How's your mother doing?" Everywhere I went, because a lot of people knew my mother. "How's your mother doing? How's Jeanette? Is she okay?" And all that. And my answer a lot of times would be, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And they would be like, "What do you mean you don't know? She's your mother. You're supposed to know. I said, "No, you don't understand. It's not that I don't check on her, but she's running the road. She's doing what she wants to do. I can't find her to check on her, because she's out living life. You want her to be at home, sitting in a chair with a blanket crying all day over her loss, but she's not doing that."
Yeah.
So,
This kind of makes me think of, something that I ran into a lot when I was, first getting into my career, and a situation of a parent and their child being an alcoholic or a drug addict, and trying to get them help when they don't want it, and trying to explain to them, we can't take your child against their will.
Yep.
You can't get them sober. And how frustrating. And I can't imagine, because again, I don't have children, but that fight of, well, you don't understand. My child's going to kill themselves. They're going to die. And I'm like, well, I do understand. And the thing is, you're powerless.
That's right.
And having explained that, because I would have to do that over the phone with people. "Oh, so you just want my kid to die?" No, that's not what I'm saying. They have to be ready. They have to want this. They have to make that decision. And unfortunately, you can't make them.
No, it's about acceptance. And, I'll give you one, and I'll be honest with you. It drives me crazy. And when it happens, the phrase, "Not my circus, not my monkeys, not my circus, not my monkeys," is just rolling in my head. A lot of times at the meeting I go to, when you have somebody at their first day, they have walked in and it's their first day of sobriety.
Yeah.
And we get to the end of the meeting and we're going to hand out chips. And we get to the desired chip and we say, "Does anybody want a desired chip?" And then we look at that person and we wave it in front of them.
Like,
and,
you?
"Hey, you come get one. Yeah, you need one because it's your first day." Well, we're controlling them.
Yeah.
It's their acceptance. It's not my acceptance. It's not when I think they're ready.
But that does happen so much because everybody will look at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so no, you can't drag somebody. I get the call, and I'm sure y'all do often. "Hey, Bobby, I've got a son or a daughter or a friend that I believe is an alcoholic. Will you come talk to them?"
Yeah.
And I'll say, "You know what? I will. I'll be glad to come talk to them. But I'm telling you right now, until they're ready, I can talk to them 24 hours and it is not going to make a difference."
Right. And what I do in those situations, like have them call me, because I know there may be some control involved in that, and I'm not going to waste my time. I mean, I don't mean that like waste my time, but if they want the help, I will come and talk to them.
That's right.
And the sad thing is that I have lost friends that I knew that were not doing well at all. They told me their situation, and I knew they weren't well, and I tried everything in my power to guide them and give them, resources. And, 2 of them ended up killing themselves. And that was really, really hard for me to realize that I had no power in that situation. And I couldn't blame myself for that because that was their decision not to seek help, and not to do those things. And it is. It's frustrating. It's saddening, especially in this field of substance abuse, that we are powerless to help other people that don't want it, and we have to sit there and watch them die.
That's right. That's right. And it's hard. But the flip side of that is me or you or Matt, we can't be with them 24 hours a day.
Exactly.
To make sure they do the right thing. We can't, unfortunately, we have lives too. We can't go get them and take them to every meeting, drag them, if you will,
right,
to every meeting. And, as sad as it is, that was their decision.
Exactly.
And they chose, I would rather not live anymore than work a program.
Yeah.
To us sitting here at the table, that seems like, well, golly, that would be an easy decision. But for some people, it is not an easy decision.
It really isn't.
It's just hard. We've all lost friends to alcoholism one way or another. It's just, again, it gets into not my circus, not my monkey. I can give them a whole truck bed full of tools, but if they don't ever reach back there and get one of the tools, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Just had a lady Thursday night at a meeting, just came in less than 30 days. And after this small meeting, and we're all kind of talking in a group, and I just told her, and I tell everybody, it's an action deal. Like you're not going to get everything right. You're not going to know every damn thing in here. You're not going to speak the language and quotations, all that shit people are doing. You're not. But if you can get your butt to a meeting every day, especially early on, and you can try a little bit, just try just a little bit, you're going to be fine. And it'll start to kind of, but that seems to be the rub most of the time, is that first little early on trying and this is uncomfortable and I don't want to do this. And,
But it even goes, a step further. We were talking about it a little bit earlier about even people in AA want to get in other people's business and control them. And for me, I try real careful not to give other people's sponsees, if you will, suggestions, because if I'm giving them a suggestion that's opposite of what their sponsor is giving them, then I'm doing more damage than good. And, believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe, a lot of people in AA will answer shop. They'll hey, I got this situation. What should I do? Let it go. They go to the next person. Hey, I got this situation. What should I do? Let it go. They go to the next one. Hey, I got this situation. What should I do? Let it go. They go to one more. Hey, I got this situation. What should I do? Well, if I was you, I'd bust up in there and give them a piece of my mind. Oh, that's what I'm going to do.
They're looking for someone to co-sign their bullshit.
That's right.
We call it staff splitting, kids do that with parents. But yeah, I'm like, what did your sponsor say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
we have a pretty tight group where we're at. And I'm glad you brought that up, Bobby, about someone else's sponsee that I'm friends with. I've had this a couple of times and it wasn't anything majorly important, but they were more just talking something out loud and their sponsor wasn't there. And then they asked me, what would you do about this? And I said, first thing I would do is talk to my sponsor straight out.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're asking me how I would handle it, that's what I would do in that situation. But you need to, and
yeah, and I'll give you a real life example. When I first got sober and first started going to the Koala Club, and it's just the way Bobby thinks about it, so it may be different for other people. After the meeting, somebody would come up to me and say, hey, you need to read the book, Drop the Rock. I'm 90 days sober. You need to read the book, Drop the Rock. Or you need to read Pass It On. Or you need to read Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers. And you need to read this. Well, my sponsor needs to tell me what I need to read.
People have a way of doing that.
Yep.
And it happened to me when I was in treatment. Well, this is what your higher power needs to be, and this is how you need to pray, and this is what you need to do.
Right.
And that wasn't my belief system.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's very common.
Well, and the way I think about it is when I'm early in sobriety, the only book I need to be really worried about is the big book.
Yeah.
And working those steps. And if I'm reading, War and Peace or some other book, I'm not taking time to read what I need to be reading.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly I can read Drop the Rock or
Great
Pass It
book.
On, all those good books, but I need to get a little bit of sobriety under me and do all that. But it's that foe I'm wanting to help them when really you're wanting to get in their business, and it may have worked for them, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for me.
Exactly.
And it's hard. And going back to the Facebook thing, and I'm on Facebook, and I look on Facebook pretty much, but it drives me crazy. I don't need to know where you're located 24 hours
or
a day.
your opinions on everything.
Or where you're eating, or where you're getting your nails done. And if you stop and really think about that, what are those people doing? They're crying out for attention. They're crying out for acceptance. They're crying out to be more than maybe they really are. And, we're all narcissistic, and for those in Ville Platte, Louisiana, that means you only think about self, so anyway, and when I've only got myself concerned, then how can I help somebody else?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been a fun journey of learning, this is just one of those things that we figure out as we get sober. This is one little area of it, but it's such a big area. It translates to so many other things. And unless you guys got anything else.
I'm like you, Matt. This is a big topic. This could probably be 10 podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd never replow the same ground over and over.
Well, Mike brought this up with Jill and I earlier in the week, and he said, hey, this is going to be the topic. And I said, I know a guy on this one. I got to call him. So, but anyway, thank you for coming. And
Absolutely. Thank you, Bobby.
Till next time.